Welcome, welcome, welcome I'm just so happy to be here, and I want to thank each of you for joining us for the Parkinson's Foundation's Mindfulness Monday. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, I'm so happy to have you, and thank you. Thank you for taking the time to tune in with our Parkinson's Mindful community. I'm Crista Ellis, Community Program Manager for the Florida and Gulf Coast chapters of the Parkinson's Foundation. I'm tuning in today from sunny but chilly Tampa, Florida. So let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. We got one chat saying coming from Georgia. I think I saw someone was here from the Philippines. Could be. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Arlington, Virginia. Thanks, Jane. New Orleans, what's up, Nola? The Finger Lakes in New York. Hello. Hey, Meryl. Lacey, Washington. Yeah, you're definitely colder than I am. Ohio. Had some snow yesterday. Huh. Okay, good. Parkland, Florida. You're not cold. Okay. California. Jane in Denver. Woo! Woo! Joan, Colorado. Man, I can't imagine how cold it is there. So many northern states. Israel, what's up? Hi, welcome, Daisy. Welcome. Daisy's 2000 from Israel. Salt Lake City, Utah. Thanks, Preston. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Reaching corners of the world in this mindful Parkinson's community. So thank you all so much for being here. The Parkinson's Foundation will be hosting virtual events each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of the week. So we've got our Mindfulness Mondays, Wellness Wednesdays, and Fitness Fridays. To learn more and to register, please visit parkinson.org/pdhealth. The Parkinson's Foundation provides families with free resources, including our website, parkinson.org, educational books, webinars, podcasts, a hospitalization kit, and our toll-free helpline, 1-800-4-PD-INFO, which is staffed by bilingual Parkinson's specialists. To learn more about our resources and our upcoming virtual events, remember to visit our website at parkinson.org, or you can reach our toll-free helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO. Join us for this Wellness Wednesday as we address some of the top strategies for coping amidst the challenges of PD and our current global health crisis. You will learn about simple lifestyle choices, including ways to take care of yourself mentally and physically right now in order to strengthen your networks and relationships to better navigate through this pandemic. To learn more and to register for this Wellness Wednesdays event, visit parkinson.org/PDHealth. Don't forget to tune in next week for our meditation with either Dr. Craig and or Devin Hayes. We will be exploring joy for ourselves. And without any more of your time, I would love to introduce our expert speaker today, Dr. Taylor Rush from Cleveland Clinic. Taylor, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Crista. So welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be with you all today. I'm Dr. Taylor Rush. I am a clinical health psychologist at Cleveland Clinic here in Cleveland, Ohio. So Annette, I understand what you mean by the snow situation. We had a little bit of that ourselves yesterday here in Cleveland. And I also have some wool stockings on today, Crista. So I understand, although it is, I think 40 degrees here. So I've gotcha by a few degrees. So today I am honored to be with you all, and I'm so excited to see so many people from around the states as well as the globe to be able to talk a little bit more about your mindfulness practice. And for those of you who are regulars to this program, you guys have been doing some amazing work lately with growing your mindfulness practice and learning more about it. And today I thought that we could reflect a little bit on the topic of resistance, because it's often a theme that can come up as people are starting to develop their meditation practice, as well as, I think, kind of living in the world that we're living in right now. Resistance can come up quite a bit. And so when we talk about resistance, I think it's important to understand what I mean by that. So from where I'm standing, how I think about resistance is kind of the pushing away or unwillingness to let go of certain things that may be going on in one's life. And we all experience resistance. And this can be in many different facets. It can be resistance with people, situations that are new, different, or stressful, change that may be going on in one's life, whether they asked for it or not, physical sensations within the body, and emotion as well. So we experience resistance in many different forms within our life. And even in small children, I remember when my daughters were babies and, they're like 6 months old, and you give them the monkey toy instead of the elephant toy, and they will let you know that they are resistant to that idea because it's not what they wanted. It's not what they expected. And so there's this pushing away of something that they didn't want or didn't ask for. And that kind of carries through into adulthood. It's, somewhat kind of ingrained in our DNA to experience resistance. And what we often find, though, is that resistance doesn't always work in our favor. And it's important to understand when it starts to create a problem. And so when people are trying to detect resistance in their life, I ask them to think about, do you ever notice yourself saying should statements or can't statements? Something that suggests that the way things are not the way that you want them to be. And it's basically a statement of whatever's happening right now is not acceptable. And often when I'm working with folks who have Parkinson's, and that's a large part of what I do, is I work in our movement disorders section here at Cleveland Clinic, I see resistance in several different forms. For some, it may be resistance to their initial diagnosis, and they're like, this is not what I planned. My plan was I retire, I have a good retirement, a good life, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and now this is throwing a wrench into things, and I don't want it. And I don't know that I can accept this. It may be difficulty with accepting and kind of resisting some of the symptoms that occur. So whether it's rigidity, tremor, difficulty with balance, they'll say, I can't accept this. I don't want to accept this. I don't like it. And so there's that resistance, that pushing away of something that is happening. And then there's also a resistance about the future, because many times the future tends to be a bit of a question mark. We don't always know exactly what's going to happen and in what manner and in what order and in what time frame. And I think if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that none of us have much control over that anyways. But with Parkinson's, especially, that question mark can look very scary. And so there's a resistance to accepting the inability to forecast what is actually going to happen in the future. And so there's this fear of change. There's a fear of something that's going to be different or something that we don't know. And a lot of times, if we look at resistance and the roots of that, if we think of it as a plant and we're looking at where it starts, it's often in this sense of threat to one's physical or emotional safety, a threat to comfort, a threat to well-being. And that is what can cause some of that resistance to really flower and grow. And there's a phrase that I really like that talks about resistance. It says that whatever you resist persists. And so the harder we try to fight against those things that are happening in our life that we don't want, oftentimes the longer the negativity surrounding that may stick around. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Andy Puddicombe. So he's a former monk who actually is the co-founder of Headspace, which is a really widely used app that helps people with mindfulness growth. But he talks about resistance with an analogy about a car that I think is so great. He says, imagine that there's this very slow moving car that's, coming by you, right in front of you. It's going slower than even walking pace. So you're able to get in front of it without worrying about getting, run over by it. And imagine that, you don't like the car crossing your path, or you don't like something about the car that, just kind of strikes you the wrong way. And so you try to get in front of the car and push the car. You try to push the car and say, I don't want you here, I want you gone. But in fact, the more you try to push against the car, and the car is still rolling forward, the more it builds tension, the more difficulty you have with trying to resist the car. Whereas if you just said, okay, I don't like this car, but I see it slowly rolling by, eventually the car will roll by and you wouldn't have put so much energy and effort into resisting what was already going to happen. And so it's the idea that the more we put into resisting things, the more it actually reduces our energy, because we use so much of our energy to put into that. And so it takes a lot of energy to sustain resistance. It's kind of like when I talk to people about, suppressing emotion, it's kind of like if you have a beach ball and you're trying to shove it under the water of the pool. And the more you try to shove it under, the more it kind of builds up and it eventually, pops out. And so the same thing can happen with resistance, that we're putting so much effort into a futile attempt to make things different than what we are, or that what is. And so it's important to be able to recognize this resistance, as well as figure out how to move past it and acknowledge it so that we can manage it. And a lot of that comes with a sense of acceptance. And so I work a lot with patients about acceptance and commitment therapy. It's a type of psychological therapy that focuses on this idea of being able to accept things and figuring out how to move forward from there if it's something that you can't control. So something that I tell people is, acceptance does not mean defeat. It's not that you're waving the white flag and that you are, the situation is over just because you're saying, okay, I can't change this. Acceptance doesn't necessarily even mean that you feel good about the situation. But what it means is that you are allowing yourself to clearly see the situation for what it is, to see the reality of the situation, good, bad, or ugly, and then try to acknowledge your reaction to it. Because there are times when our reaction is negative, and appropriately so. And when we feel that way, we're like, I shouldn't feel that way. We have such a resistance against negative emotions sometimes, even though it may be a situation that warrants a negative reaction. And so, it's easy to sometimes get enveloped in that judgment of our own reaction. And in Buddhism, they call that, distinguishing a first dart of suffering versus a second dart. So in the first dart of suffering, they say is suffering that happens because we're on this earth and we're human. Suffering that is inevitable. So those things that happen to us that we can't control, predict, or change from happening, it just happens. And for some of my patients, they identify having been diagnosed with Parkinson's as a first dart kind of suffering. Second darts are actually the darts that we bring on ourselves, and that's our reaction to the first dart. And it's often strong thoughts or emotions that we say are unacceptable. No, I shouldn't feel this way. I don't want to feel this way. It's uncomfortable. Stop it. And by resisting against that, it actually creates unnecessary suffering. So those second darts are those darts that we bring upon ourselves that is an unnecessary suffering. And so a lot of times when I'm working with people, we talk about how to identify a first dart versus a second dart, and then how to deal with the second darts when they arise. Because we all have strong emotional reactions, and we don't necessarily have to resist them. Sometimes we just have to understand them and say, okay, given the situation, this makes sense. Let me just observe it, notice how it's affecting me, so that, instead of getting run over by that car, I can just watch it pass by and keep going. So I thought we could spend a few minutes engaging in a meditation to better understand the resistance that you may hold in your body, in your heart, and in your mind. And the better you explore resistance in a calm state, oftentimes the better equipped you are to understand it and then be able to let go of it. So I want to start by having everyone kind of get into their meditation mode. And so whether that's, being in a comfortable chair or, on your couch, on your bed, in your lazy boy, whatever it may be. But I just want you to get in a supported position where you don't necessarily have to actively hold up your body, so that you can just let it relax. And for some people, they like to close their eyes, which is totally fine. Some people find a soft fixed point on the floor or somewhere that they can just kind of settle their eyes, but keep them open, whatever is most comfortable for you. So once you kind of get into your position with your body aligned and supported, I want you to go ahead and find your fixed point, close your eyes, and I just want you to start by anchoring to the observation of your breath. So noticing the sensation of your breath as you breathe in, filling your lungs, and breathe out, letting the air come out your nose, mouth, noticing how your body may settle after each breath. Noticing the rhythm of your breath. Noticing how it feels to be observing your breath. And you will notice other thoughts that interject, and that's normal because your brain is alive. But whatever those thoughts are, allowing your brain to dismiss them and coming back to the focus of your breath. We're trying to clear the stage, clear the mind of the clutter. Allow the volume knob on the world's problems come down a few notches. So we really want to engage in R&R, relaxation and release. And now I want you to do a quick scan of your body, all the way from your toes up to the top of your head. I just want you to notice any sensations that register, whether it's the feel of your cozy socks, noticing the air temperature in the room on your skin, noticing the position of your body in the chair. Any sensations of tension, relaxation, heart rate, discomfort, just welcoming it all for what it is. It's a judgment-free zone, so just observing, and then moving on to any other sensations you may feel in other areas of your body. And then I'd like you to consider focusing on your heart and envisioning your heart as the emotional center of your body and your mind. Noticing if it feels closed, walled off, open, or light. Noticing if you feel as if you block off emotions or embrace them. And then taking notice as to whether you're embracing or resisting the present moment right now. And if you notice any resistance, that's okay. Again, it's a normal human reaction. And resistance may take different forms. It could be, are you having any thoughts about what this meditation is supposed to look like? Or how you're supposed to feel right now? Or how long this is supposed to last? And noticing if you feel that resistance anywhere else in your body. So beyond your heart, some people feel resistance in their shoulders, their back, their hands may clench. And just using an attitude of friendly exploration to notice any of those sensations that you may experience that could be associated with resistance. And allow your breath to try to enhance feelings of openness. Allowing your heart to open to whatever sensations or thoughts you may be having. Allowing yourself to be curious. Noticing those should statements. Noticing those areas of tension that you may say, those shouldn't be there. I don't want to feel this. Just allowing it to be. When we lean into the resistance, oftentimes it then begins to dissolve. As you continue to focus on the breath and focus on opening your heart, I want to read you a brief poem by Rumi, who was a 13th century poet, and it is entitled The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. with that, take one more deep breath. Feel your fingers and your toes enliven. Allow them to stretch and wiggle. Allow yourself to open your eyes when the time feels right. And I hope that you can go about your day with a little more openness and a little less resistance, or at least being more comfortable with some of the resistance when it arises. And if there are any last minute thoughts or questions that people may have, I'm happy to answer any within the chat.
Thank you, Taylor. So please, as always, I always ask everyone, if you feel comfortable sharing your experience, feel free to drop a note in the chat for Dr. Rush and I and our Mindful Parkinson's community to see. And, you know, being open to acknowledging that meditation and mindfulness is a practice. And we get hung up on this idea or this connotation that, well, you meditate, you should be a calm person. You're calm. You should be calm. You should feel relaxed. When really, sometimes it can stir up a lot of feelings on the opposite end of the emotional spectrum. So all comments, all emotions, feelings, thoughts, ideas, feedback are welcome here, especially here. So feel free to share. I have been working a lot with resistance in my own personal meditation practice. And it's funny when you ask us to focus on that resistance, you're like, oh no, but I want to push it away a little bit more. don't let it come up. I want to push it away. So there's resistance to the resistance. And it's interesting how it can be layered. Lois. So Dr. Rush, if you want to address some of the comments that are being made in our chat here.
Yes. Okay. So Lois had said, felt upset and like I wanted to cry. And that, is such the interesting part of meditation, is that sometimes feelings come up that maybe we have been actively pushing down, like the beach ball, under the water. And sometimes when that comes up in meditation, it's something that we should pay attention to. It's something that maybe needs to come out. And I think we are conditioned, especially in our society here in the United States, to say, okay, if you have a negative emotion, get rid of it. Like, it's bad. We shouldn't have that. But sometimes crying is a really good thing. Crying is cathartic. Crying is honoring the emotion that comes along with it. Crying is sometimes very much what we need in order to get past something that's painful, to be able to deal with something that may be out of our control. And so, Lois, I would say, I certainly did not mean to upset you with this meditation, but at the same time, I think it's important to recognize that that sometimes those things need to happen, and best for it to happen on your terms, with being able to honor it and acknowledge it rather than it come up somewhere where you'd rather it not. So I'm grateful for the emotion, at least, and I hope you can be too.
Absolutely, yes, Lois, and thank you so much for feeling safe to share that reaction with us and our community here. I think it's important to note that when we give ourselves the space and the time to really be present with what's happening, as Dr. Rush was alluding to, what's happening in your heart, what you might be pushing down or pushing away or resisting. And when you give it space and time and an opportunity to bubble up like that balloon or the ball under the water and release it, you're a little bit closer to freedom. and to yourself. So I'm really, really proud of you for allowing that to happen today. And that, that Dr. Rush was able to give you that release in that moment. So might not feel good now, but it might feel good later. So I want to thank each of you for joining us today. I am just so, so grateful. I see new faces and I see new names here. And it's becoming very obvious how helpful these Mindful Mondays are for our Parkinson's community here in the States, across the nation, across the seas, and touching borders across the world. So I want to thank you all for bringing this unity of mindfulness to the Parkinson's community here with the Parkinson's Foundation. We wouldn't be able to host this event without your support and your participation. So thank you all so much for being here. And Dr. Rush, personally want to thank you so much for your guidance, your wisdom, and your knowledge and your time today and sharing that with all of us. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you, Crista. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I am so glad that the Parkinson's community has you as well.
You're so sweet. Thank you. So tune in next week, you guys. Devin and Craig will be back. We have our session on joy for the self. So if you want to know what that sounds like, what that looks like, what it feels like to feel that joy for yourself, come next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll explore it together. So until next week, we'll see you then. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.